Hi, Flux here, and today we'll be talking about the Steam frame. Deckard is finally here! I am so happy. I've been waiting on this for so long. We've all been waiting on this for so long. There's a lot of features in it that I called that, like, yeah, I knew this was going to happen. What I did expect to happen is we get a new Steam machine. And actually a proper one this time that's not just, hey, look, Alienware made a thing. But yeah, let's talk about the headset. First things first, tracking, inside-out tracking. For those who still don't know what that means, the headset tracks itself using cameras. Now, in most cases, this means you need to either have lights on in your room or you need to have IR floodlights or base stations, because the base stations emit infrared light, in order for the headset to be able to know where it is in the room. Not true for the Steam frame, because the Steam frame actually has IR floodlights built into the headset, so it's emitting infrared light, and with that, it can then see the environment. Infrared, of course, is not visible to the human eye, so that means you can play in complete pitch black darkness without any issues. The downside of this is that now anyone with a Vive full-body solution, such as the 2.0 or 3.0 trackers, will need to use something like Space Calibrator, Open Space Calibrator, to align the play space of the headset with the play space of the trackers. We've been using this for a while for Quest headsets, and it works relatively well. There's two different variants of it. One, regular calibration, where you simply grab a tracker with your controller and then just do a figure 8 for a few seconds to calibrate. Once that's done, you will see the tracker pretty much appear where your controller is, and it just works. The second solution is still doing that, but additionally on your headset you add a tracker, so now when you look around, you use continuous calibration, so as you're moving around your play space, it'll always keep going and recalibrating this to make sure that they always perfectly stay aligned, because the issue with the regular calibration is that over time, it will start to slowly drift apart. But let's get to how you connect it to your computer. I've already mentioned it with the dongle part. It's Steam Link. You just connect via Steam Link. It's the exact same way that it works on a Quest Pro. You just start up Steam Link on your headset and just remote connect to the PC, and there you are. What is new about this? Well, nothing really. Other the fact that you have a dongle that allows you to just directly connect to your computer. The Steam Link is pretty much the same as it will be on a Quest Pro, and the reason why I point out the Quest Pro specifically, not the Quest 2 or the Quest 3 or the Quest 3S or the Pico 4, is because the Quest Pro actually has built-in eye tracking and sends that eye tracking data to Steam Link. This means that Steam Link actually can already use foveated streaming, which it's been feeling like a kind of like strange fever dream every time I see someone else talking about it, and they all parrot the exact same thing that Valve said, where Valve said this new thing, foveated streaming, and it's like, but it already existed. Like, yes, the Index can't use it. However, the technology foveated streaming has already proven itself on other headsets such as the Quest Pro. Because I mentioned this because I've seen some people be like, oh, we'll have to see how good foveated streaming is. And it's like, no, it's great. It works really well. Now, if you drop down your stream resolution to 480 pixels and then look around, you can see kind of the crunchiness of like the compression. But that's it. You'd have to on purpose lower it so far down that you can start seeing the differences. Because obviously, if your native resolution starts at 480p, the lower resolution will be very, very crunchy. However, if you're just running at the regular amount of resolution that the headset will stream at, ideally using the dongle, there won't be any bandwidth issues, there won't be any overlap issues, so there shouldn't be any reason other than potentially a bottleneck in your system that it can't just push the full maximum bandwidth through to your headset at all times. Now, next, the strap. Some people were worried about the strap because it's just around your head now, just like a Quest. However, if you do like the strap on the top, they will be offering that as well as an option for you to just replace the strap with a strap that has a top strap as well. But the unsung hero of this entire thing that combines the Steam Deck, the Steam Machine, and the Steam Frame into this holy trifecta is the SD card slot. It's been too long. Every single headset that's released pretty much is like, oh, you either buy the terrible space version or the slightly less terrible space version. Here's your options. And then you either pay like 300 or you pay 500. And it's like, well, damn. I guess this sucks. I guess I have to save up for the 500 version because I do like having storage. But with the Steam Frame, that won't be an issue. If you have an SD card lying around, perfect. Otherwise, there's a lot of cheap SD cards you can just get. But why does this combine the Steam Machine and the Steam Deck to the Steam Frame? Because all of them have an SD card slot, which means if you install games on your SD card and save the save data on Steam, so it uploads to the Steam Cloud, you can just literally take out your SD card from one device, plug it into the other, and just keep playing the game because they all run on Steam OS, which is really neat. That is such a neat idea from them, so that you can just take out the SD card and put it into a different device. It's very reminiscent of back when we had discs and like cards from like Nintendo games where you could just take them out. And I'm not talking about like the regular official Nintendo cards. I'm more talking about the kind of third-party burner cards where you just put a bunch of different games that you own. You just first dump them onto your computer and then you just put them onto this one little chip, and then that's how you play the games. So you can back them up. Like that's what that's very reminding me of. Next, there is an expansion slot, again, just like on the Index. However, this time it's not USB-based. It's actually a PCIe slot at the front bottom of the headset, which is really nice and suspiciously very nicely positioned for adding a face tracker. I would not be surprised if they added. There's exactly no news about that, but I would not be surprised if they start offering eventually a face tracking add-on, or if someone at least makes one. Software is also something we need to talk about, and I've already mentioned it. It runs SteamOS, the Steam operating system. However, Steam operating system will also come with Proton. Well, what does Proton do? Well, Proton is somewhat similar to Wine, which basically allows you to run Windows games on Linux. But beyond that, the Steam Frame will also have access to FEX. Now, FEX is an emulation system that allows you to essentially emulate the instruction set for your big boy PCs so that you can actually run big boy applications on the reduced instruction set of a mobile system. So it doesn't matter if a game was made specifically for mobile hardware, which is ARM. It doesn't matter because now with FEX, you can actually emulate that you are non-mobile hardware, and it will probably work pretty decently with some edge cases, of course. That's one thing I'll mention is like with Proton and FEX, obviously you'll run into some edge cases where, hey, this one game is having these specific issues and doesn't work, or like, hey, this game's anti-cheat is very aggressive and does not like being run that way. But that's issues that, you know, with time can be ironed out. But beyond that, it's also an open ecosystem. A lot of the time when we talk about standalone headsets, I like to compare the Pico and the Quest as a like similar but different approach to ecosystem design. The Pico is an open system while the Quest is a closed system. What this means is on a Pico, I can just go to Google, look for Flappy Bird APK, download Flappy Bird APK, click it on the headset, and now I have Flappy Bird installed. You can't do that on a Quest. You have to actually first get the developer system unlocked by signing up for the developer thing, then open your Quest up for even being able to sideload games and show them, and then you need to plug it into your PC and use a console line application to actually upload the APK and install it into the headset. It's like it's a lot more work, and some of it is automated by I forgot what it's called, but there's this like app specifically for Quest side loading that I've not used in a very long time, but they basically make that a lot simpler. But the reason I bring this up is because the Steam frame luckily takes after the Pico in that it's completely open ecosystem where you can install whatever you want. It doesn't matter what. Which means the first thing I'll be installing is RetroArch, which is for emulation. Why did I bring up emulation? Because we'll go straight into the controllers from here, and that is, they're amazing. They still support the finger tracking. If you want the strap on your hand so it holds the controller against your hand, that's something they'll be offering as well. To just quickly go over these things. But the most important part is they have full gamepad support, which means the controllers for your virtual reality will now have every single button on them needed to play a regular controller-based game. So you don't need a separate PS5 controller or Xbox controller. You can literally just use your VR controllers for playing gamepad-based games, which I've been waiting for this for so long. Like, one of the main things I do with VR also is just using it as a massive display, because it's very nice to just have this huge display. It's just great immersion. The headsets have good audio directionality, so it's just really nice to have. And with the added buttons on the controller, it'll be even better to play those games. The next point here is it could be a positive, it could be negative, depending on how you look at it, but the controller is going to not have a built-in battery. Instead, they will be using AA batteries. And batteries is a bit of a lie. They'll be using a singular AA battery for each controller. This is a significant downsize from 2 AA's, I think it was, or was it AAA's or AA's? But anyway, it was 2 batteries for the Quest 2 controllers. And I think it was also 2 for the Pico controllers. But yeah, it's pretty nice. In their material, it also looks pretty simple to slide off the cover of the controller. And they are saying that, generally speaking, you can expect about 20 hours of battery life with a AA battery. Of course, this depends on the AA battery you put in. I don't know which AA battery they used for this, or what specifically the specs was of the AA battery. I don't think they posted that, but yeah. That is pretty much everything. We talked about the tracking solution. We talked about the space calibrator that you'll need if you have like Vive trackers. I think I did mention that I suggest upgrading from Vive trackers to something like Flux Pose or Slime trackers. Ideally, Flux Pose once it releases. It's just not released yet. Because it allows you, so you're already needing to like calibrate. It's going to allow you to not have to worry too much about occlusion with the same calibration steps needed. Foveated streaming we talked about. We talked about the fact that you can separately get the strap for the top, the SD card slot, the expansion slot, the fact that it's an open ecosystem, the fact that, holy shit, those controllers, those fucking controllers, I love those controllers. Again, they still have the full like finger tracking, and you can still get a strap so they hold your hand so that you can do the finger tracking better. But the full gamepad support is really what like absolutely blows me away, because all other controllers, like the Index controller has been the best quote-unquote controller, with the only issue being that that grip was such a weird thing on that controller. It's like you either always undergrip or overgrip. It's very finicky. And also it like kind of wears out your hand. Like your hand starts getting a bit tired after long grips. But yeah, that's everything we talked about. And thank you for watching my rambly recap of what we know about the Steam frame. I'll see ya. Bye.